the podcast today, we have Amy Swanson. She's the co-founder and CEO of Ultropia, an ultrasound platform technology company for textiles and that makes laundry more efficient and accessible. Alongside her entrepreneurial role, she is a research engineer assistant at the Center for Industrial and Medical Ultrasound. Her projects received awards from the Co-Motion Innovation Gap Fund, MIT's Climate and Energy Prize, the Husky Seed Fund, and the UW GIX Innovation Competition, as well as prizes in several business plan competitions such as Dempsey, EIC, and HIC. She's participated in entrepreneurial programs such as VentureWell, the Jones and Foster Accelerator, and the NSF National I-Corp program. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering from Eastern Washington University, and before that was self-employed as a massage therapist. For fun, she sings in a band, upcycles plastic waste, and makes YouTube videos with her daughter. You are so cool.
Oh, thank you. I feel like I enjoy doing the things that I do. And it's definitely taken me a lot of time to find the resources and the people that really make doing projects fun.
So I think the burning question first is to cover Ultropia. For me especially, when I first heard about it, I was like, wow, you're reinventing laundry. And it's something that everyone has in their house and that everyone has to deal with in life. So what's the Ultropia story and how did you start building this incredible laundry empire?
I think because I have a very traditional background, I didn't go to college right away after I graduated. Instead, I worked a lot of different jobs. I got a trade. It was 2008. The market had just crashed. I was like, I'm not going to go to college. Instead, I'm going to go get a massage license. And so I got a massage license. Along with the massage license, I would work for myself. My specialty was in lymphatic drainage. And then I would have an office on the weekends that I would do massage in, but then I would also supplement my income with cleaning homes, just because the massage clients weren't as regular as the cleaning clients. And then it was much better, instead of like working for a spa that paid me like $17 an hour for doing a massage, which was like very, very laborious, it was better to get paid $60 an hour and keep most of it myself. And so I've always been very entrepreneurial in this way. But in both of these industries, there is a lot of laundry, like massage sheets and then cleaning people's homes, and people will pay you just to like not have to deal with their laundry. And so just going inside people's lives and seeing all of this laundry, as well as being a mother as well, I feel like the piles of laundry that you get from a baby, it's not just like a linear increase, it's like exponential. We did cloth diapers, and so there was just so much laundry. So I had this big desire to move away from the way that we've been doing laundry. And I was like, hey, I want to make a process that I can just put the laundry into, have it wash it, dry it, and store it at the end so that I never have to fold laundry again. And it's really turned into this massive journey of like, how do I actually accomplish this?
Wow. So in the beginning, when you were first cleaning houses and doing massage, what was your life like? What did the day-to-day look like for you?
I think it's different and similar in some ways. I feel like because I've always been someone that's developed my own schedule, I think it's that's where a lot of my drive comes from. Like if I don't wake up and make money, then I don't make money, and you need money if you want stuff. But at the same time, it gives me a lot of flexibility to choose to do the work that I want to do and be selective about who I'm taking work from. And so my day-to-day is still very, very similar. I have projects that I work on, but for the most part, I have a lot of autonomy in choosing what I get to work on and why. And so I think that's where a lot of my drive and my self-discipline comes from, is from that schedule. Just being able to be like, hey, I have this massage scheduled at this time, and then I'm going to go over to this person's home. I'm going to spend 4 hours cleaning it, and then maybe I'm going to do some babysitting and like put my schedule together like that.
So how did you make the transition from being self-employed and working different jobs to going in and starting your own company?
And I think a lot of that was because my dad wanted me to get a bachelor's degree. I feel like I was making a living doing what I was doing, but my dad was like, hey, like it would be great if you got a degree. He didn't want me to go to like a private school or do stuff like that. But my mom passed away and we had money from my mom's life insurance, and he was like, hey, I want you to spend this on getting a bachelor's degree. And I wanted to make sure that whatever I did would be different than what I was worth the money that I was paying for it. And I think right out of high school, I wouldn't have gotten an electrical engineering degree. It took me a long time to figure that out. And I think it's a degree that maybe a lot of people, their parents are like, oh, engineering's a good job, you should do this, or their skills really lean that way. I think for me, it was definitely an exploration. I did a lot more like theater in high school. And so going from having more artistic interests to like, hey, I can build stuff with these tools and this information. And then having a more science-based background, I think there was a lot of deconstructing my preconceived notions around science. I think I had been raised very religiously. And so going and teaching myself all of these more scientific methods and approaches and these ways that you can have access to resources. I think people get really afraid of science, of it's like being an ivory tower, or they're brainwashing people, or there's all these things. And it's like, no, these are resources that are available to you. And if it's something that you're really, really interested in, there's ways and resources that you can get connected with by going to college. I think a lot of people, they're like, it's a big cost. I see all these people in debt. And I think that's what I thought originally. I was like, hey, like these people, they have 4-year degrees and they don't have jobs. Like what's the point of that? And I think you have to be very thoughtful with the degree program that you engage into. In the school that you're going to. And so some schools, if it's going to be a more liberal arts degree, the name of the school matters a lot more. If it's going to be an engineering degree, then it's that program is really good and just make sure it's ABET accredited. And so I think getting rid of a lot of those preconceived notions and being like, hey, like schools are great. They have these proven pathways and these access to do things. Like you do not need to be doing things from scratch or creating things. Like you can stand on the shoulders of giants that have built our society and figure out all the things that they have learned before us. And it's just, electrical engineering, I think, was not the easiest thing for me to do, but I learned so much during it, and it really fed my curiosity. And it was something that it's like, okay, this is the way that I want to go. I feel like there's still several steps before I get to Ultropia. But
and we can take it slow, because I'm still so curious about your upbringing and your childhood. And I guess there was so much history that came before. You know, a lot of people just see the success and they don't see all of the things that led to that. So what was kind of your learning process, I guess, before you even stepped into a college institution? What were you doing already in your life? Because I get the sense that you're very entrepreneurial, and you've had lots of different side projects going on this whole time.
Yeah.
And, you know, did you build things with your dad, and what part did your mom play, and all of that?
I think I didn't have as much community in my early 20s, and I think that can be a huge problem with people in their early 20s. I would say because I didn't go directly into the college system, I think it's a really good way to transition from childhood to adulthood is through the college system, and I think that's why I go to college, is just so you can have that softer transition. Figuring it out on my own, I feel like because my mom passed away when I was 12, and my dad was very much a like, figure this out yourself type person, I feel like I didn't have as much community to fall back on. I also moved away. My family moved to Texas after my mom passed away, and I didn't have that much community in Texas, and I was like, I want to go somewhere that's the exact opposite, so I moved to Seattle, and I really didn't know anybody here. And so I really isolated myself in this way, and I think it's very difficult to start over and create all these things. It's much better to find community, find people like much earlier on. I think that's why churches are very successful. People find community there. People find community in schools. So just finding those places, and there are so many little places where I think people can connect with other people, and I think that would be my biggest takeaway from my early 20s, because I feel like it was because I didn't have that much community, it was very, very difficult. And so I think I tried, like I was always a very curious person. I feel like I was very much like a pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Like I need to figure this out, and if I don't, then it's, like it's up to me. And I feel like that's given me a lot of grit, because I think I struggled so much in my early 20s.
So you took the more non-traditional
I took the more non-traditional path, and I think I had a lot more questions with society itself, and I think I had to push against a lot of this and go figure it out on my own. And then I think it's made me understand why certain things are the way they are and how I can tap into the systems and use it to my advantage, because it's like these are the systems and these are the levers that you can pull. But it was definitely, it took a lot of time of me exploring different things. I think I went through a phase where I was like, I want to like recycle a bunch of cigarette butts. And so when I was in my early 20s, I was like, these are made from fiberglass. If I melt down the cigarette butts, I can turn it into like use it for skateboards or make other things out of fiberglass. And so just reuse the fiberglass that's in a lot of cigarette butts. And so I went through this phase of like, I'm going to collect all these cigarette butts. But then I had like all these cigarette butts like in my apartment and like trying to process, like I wasn't like, it was there are better ways to approach these things, and it's like the energy was there, but then now it's like, hey, when I want to do something, connecting to people who have the tools and the resources, not just like putting a bunch of cigarette butts in my apartment.
So I love that so much. And I'm sure there were many more.
Yeah, it's the silly stuff like that, and it's good to try, but I was a lot more like wanted everything to be done a particular way when I was younger, and I needed a lot more control. Now I'm much more about like the flow of things and letting things go organically, and doing it in a way that the resources allow, because when you try to push too hard, it's much more difficult. Like you can guide it with your vision a lot, but trying to not let anybody work with you because it's not going to be the way that you need it to be perfectly is a very artistic thing to do, and a lot of people have executed great artistic works. But I think in more modern times, using a group, and I very much value like action-oriented groups with very limiting beliefs, like a couple people just really going for it. So I'm all about a good team.
What was because it sounds like you've transitioned to more of a team space now, but growing up, it sounds like you also had potentially a lot of alone time. Your dad kind of left you alone, and your mom also passed away when you were 12. Would you be open to sharing more about that?
I think because I was more kind of went where the wind took me, and I popped up places, but I also very much believed in like community and roots, and like I wanted to be in Seattle. I wanted to grow a community here, but I didn't have a community here yet. And so you end up at different places, and like seeing the people that did more massage, and then I had a girlfriend that went to like Bastille, and then like I lived with them for a while and kind of got into that scene. I think I picked up different hobbies. I think I got into growing plants for a while in like a hydroponic way, and so I think it was there was different interesting things to explore when I was younger, and I think and being like among like these more like naturalists who are like into this more or like organic health type stuff, I think that was really interesting. I had like a Volkswagen bus for a while that like I would buy different vehicles that would kind of like not work out, and like kind of like play with them a little bit and be like, okay, this is it. And so just letting myself make maybe bad decisions. I feel and then you learn what is good and what people are good, and then you find yourself maybe in places that you don't want to be, and then you start to value the places that are good, and you see that contrast. You see like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be here right now, or maybe these people don't have my best interest in mind, or I could go this way for a long time, but this isn't necessarily what makes me happy, and really figuring like myself out, like what is it that I need to be a happy person. And I decided, I think when I was 24 turning 25, that I wanted to have a baby. And I decided that, hey, I'm like, because I think I had this desire, I was like, I think I'm polyamorous. I want to have relationships with more people. I want to have more community. And I think I needed to make this connection, these relationships with people. Because my family kind of was smaller, and then had like fallen apart in this way, I feel like I had this desire for having more people close to me in a very connected way. And so I think when I was 25, I was like, I want to have more. I want to really sink my roots in. And I was like, I want to have a baby in this community. And really nothing plugs you into the community like having a child.
What was that process like for you to build a community and also a family?
Yeah, I think it was really, really transitional from feeling like I was floating around a lot to being like, hey, like I have a baby, and then like going to to all the baby groups and seeing things from that side. And like all these, there's a lot of feelings being a parent, and there's a lot of communities that you have access to, a lot of resources. People want you to be successful as a parent. And so I participated in things like PEPS, which is a local organization for parents of newborns. And you go through this program together. There's programs at the library. And so all of a sudden there's more opportunities that are available because people want children to have these opportunities. And so it was nice to be plugged in that way and start getting connected to just everyone's children, and then really go through this experience that it's this very universal experience of like watching consciousness emerge. And so just like I think it was very healing for me to have a daughter since my mother passed away, and to connect with my child and be like, okay, this is healing. And then seeing the process of like she's very dependent and she has these feelings, and then like how do I help her become the person that she's going to be.
And I actually think that's so interesting, because you're raising a daughter and you're also raising a startup, and putting those side by side is, what are the parallels there, if there are any?
Yeah, I think there definitely is. And I feel like I think I had a baby, and then after I had the baby, I finished my electrical engineering degree, and then university was a great way to get community as well. But I didn't think that I was going to have the startup full time. I thought I was going to be, I was just going to do, just get a job in electrical engineering and not have a startup. But then I got so much positive feedback about this is what I should be doing, and I feel like they both take a lot of time, and they both take a lot of energy, and you're bringing this thing into the world that you love. And I think with my daughter, it's a lot different, because I feel like I learned a lot from her, and I've learned a lot from the startup too. And you get so many hormones from the baby. It's just like, it's very biologically like this is what my body wants to do, is like just shower all this love on this tiny person and just learn a ton from them. The startup it takes a lot. You have to put a lot of energy into it. And sometimes I think I was lucky to get a lot of positive feedback also. Because when you try things, if you're maybe not getting the feedback necessary, maybe you need to pivot a little bit. But people were really excited about what I was doing, and I feel like because the community was so excited, it allowed me to go a lot further. So I think both you need a community, and you need people excited about what you're doing, and it's so much better. Like, it's much harder to be in it alone in either of them. Like, it's very difficult to be a single parent. It's very difficult to be a solo founder. So I would say, yeah, people make things easier, and finding the people that, like, who are good people. And I feel like it can take time to find those people.
What was your process of building these relationships and navigating them, and did you have to go through trial and error as well?
I feel like as I got more integrated in the community, you have access to more people, and social capital is so valuable. I think being in the electrical engineering program, I had access to really similarly minded people who wanted to do really, really cool projects, and that's where I found my co-founder, and so that was really, really excellent. We had been a part of the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers together, so we built a drivable couch, we built a Skittle sorting machines, we adapted toys for physical therapists, so we did all of these things together, and we realized we really enjoyed working together. And so from there, we entered our university's business plan competition, and then we're like, hey, yeah, this is what we want to do. And then the university had resources and people. I think we were really lucky that the professor there, he came from Wharton. He wanted to start an entrepreneurship program. He passed us on so much information. And it's meeting these little people here and there who have this information for you. And then a lot of those people are concentrated in universities, or like it was great meeting people at the parent group. And so finding these little pockets of people where they can give you the access to the resources that you need.
Wow. I just, this is backtracking a little bit, but I'm so curious how your mind works, because you just out of nowhere you come up with this project with cigarette butts, and then it's just like out of nowhere you decide you want to have a baby, and then after you've made the decision to do the thing, you go out and you figure out how to do it, and you find the process, which sometimes I feel like it's the other way around.
Yeah.
So what's up with that?
Yeah, and I feel like maybe the way that I chose to have a baby isn't the way that a lot of people choose to have a baby. I think they want everything to be very perfect, and they can't do a startup unless they have all of the resources need to be in place. And I think I was so low resourced for so long, and everything was based on me taking action. And if I didn't take action, nothing happened. And I think I still have that approach where it's like I have the ability to just like put this stuff together, and if I don't do it, nobody will. And I think because I feel like you can end up going through all of the paces and feeling like your actions don't matter. Like maybe you go through school and you get a job and you end up at a very large company, and you could stay there and maybe not do any real work but get paid and continue living this lifestyle. But I think I had a very different experience where it was like, hey, if I don't take action, no one else is going to take action. And going into people's homes and seeing like the little areas of their life that they stop interacting with inside their physical spaces. I feel like there was this one house that I would clean, and they kept leaving their books on the floor, and there was a bookshelf next to it, and I was like, oh, let me put all of the books on the bookshelf. Just like little things when you're in your space that you forget because you've been interacting the same way. And also setting up people's spaces so it was conducive to the way that they actually moved through their space. And so I think I became a very action-oriented person. And then I think I've taken that same like, hey, I'm just going to do this like action-based approach to I think everything that I do. Versus I think when people get brought into a bureaucracy very, very early on, and this authoritarian place where it's like, oh, my parents told me what to do, my professor tells me what to do, my boss tells me what to do, then you don't feel like you can have a voice or take action because nobody was my voice, because my mom wasn't telling me what to do, because there wasn't like this thing that I was a part of, because it was dependent on me to take action. Then that's the way that I approach things.
Did you have a timeline for your 20s at all? And did you plan out kind of what you were going to do at each stage, or did it just happen?
I would say I know a lot of people who have like a 10-year plan and they're like, when I'm 30, I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be a millionaire. And they're very intent on that. I think I just tried a lot of stuff, and I think it'd be nice to be rich, but I think it's much more important to me to be happy because I feel like happiness is very, very special. And then when you're not happy, it's very hard to get your brain wiring back to that like place, so you get rewarded for the things that you're doing. And so I'm very much into happiness optimizing to make sure that the things that I do I'm enjoying and I'm getting that positive feedback from, so I want to continue to do them. Versus like if you can have all the things on the checklist and still not be happy, and like that's what I don't want for my daughter. I feel like I laughed a lot with my daughter when she was very, very little, just because I think laughing is such an important neural circuit to ingrain, and just making sure that you can laugh at things. I think people get nervous to laugh. They get like very like they don't feel like they can laugh at things, or they have to take everything very, very seriously, and they have to be so good at the time, and they forget how to laugh. And so it's like I feel like she has a really excellent laugh, and she laughs all the time, and it's like one of my favorite things.
That's so sweet. What are some things that you do to happiness optimize?
I would say laughing is a good one. Like laughing yoga can be really, really healthy when you just like spend a long time just laughing, just because I think you can forget that like things are funny, and then people really, really like it, because I feel like everyone has a different sense of humor. So if you can pick up on when someone is being funny and let yourself laugh, because they want to make you, everyone wants to make you like, they want to be funny, they want to make you smile. I feel like leaning into that when they've dropped a joke, I think it creates a more positive experience with you. Like the energy that you bring into the room, if it's like you can do a lot more listening, and then it's like, oh, they're being funny right now, I'm gonna laugh. Versus I feel like you can get really caught up in your own head, and you're like, oh, I don't want to like, I think something happens when you're little, and someone's like, you think that's funny, or and then you stop laughing at things because you learn, and you got that negative feedback, and then you're like, oh no, I'm not gonna laugh anymore. But I think just letting yourself like, hey, I'm gonna try to listen and let myself laugh. And then I think selecting, like saying no to things that don't feel good, and really listening to your body. I think a lot of people get really disconnected with what they think they need to do, that they stop listening to their body. And so I think just taking the time, it's like, oh, this feels good right now, I'm going to do more of this. Oh, I'm hungry right now, I'm going to eat. Like a lot of people will just ignore when they're hungry and stuff like that. So I think taking that time just to like really listen to yourself, really be present. And then when you know, it's like, oh, this is bringing me joy, this is fun right now. Like, hey, maybe other people wouldn't find this fun, but I find this fun. And figuring out who you are is a lot of listening to yourself.
So on the topic of happiness, maybe we can look at the opposite and look maybe at some of your past failures and the trials and errors that you went through to learn and go through the darker side to get to where you needed to go. So what are some of the failures maybe that you've encountered in life that just felt like the worst possible thing at the time, but in retrospect was something that you maybe needed to learn or needed to encounter?
And I think the path that I've picked overall in life hasn't been like the easiest path.
Right.
I feel like, I would say there's definitely like
you chose hard mode.
Yeah, I chose hard mode a little bit. Some of it was hard mode was given to me. Like I have like a really a lot of experience with like fires. Like I think people don't recognize luck enough. And I think because I've had these things that are like no faults of my own, like negative things that I'm like realize when, and a lot of that is just like maybe being, that's like, maybe I was in this place and I lived in this place where maybe more people smoked and you could do the statistics on it and be like, oh yeah, because of this, your mother was more likely to have cancer, or because of this, whatever. But I feel like at some level, it's just, people don't factor in enough luck to where they got. And then successful people can be the exact opposite way. It's just like, oh, I worked really, really hard to get there. And so much of the things that people do is luck, and they don't realize it. But the things that you can control is just like perseverance. Like if you just keep at it. And I feel like that's what I learned. It's like, because I wasn't born super lucky, like my co-founder is kind of a lucky person. I feel like there was an event that was sold out that we really wanted to go to. Like, our friend sent us the link and he clicked on it, and there happened to be 2 tickets that someone must have just returned or something. And then like, he got the tickets, and then he was like, what are you talking about? The event's been sold out for months. I just got 2 tickets and the event was sold out again. And I was like, how did you do that? You just went to this site, and then it's like, and the tickets, she wanted them, so we all went to the event together, and so it worked out that he happens to be very, very lucky. I feel like he was born like quite tall and has blue eyes and like has these, and there's these things in these ways that people treat you because you're born into your physical shape and you have the opportunities that you do, and everyone's luck is a little different. I wouldn't say it's like completely unlucky or lucky, but you are who you are. And it's a lot of it is more circumstance, but there are things that you do have control of, and so a lot of that is perseverance. I feel like if I thought about it, I'd pick, like, if I thought about what I was really, really good at, I feel like I'm pretty good at business. Electrical engineering degree was pretty far from what I was good at. It was actually probably what I was worst at, but that was what I was most curious about. And I feel like I let myself be bad for a long time. And it's like, I'm okay that I'm not like super great at math. Like I like it. Like I want to learn about it. I'm curious about it. And I feel like I'm learning a ton. And I feel like I let myself be bad for a long time. And I feel like it developed this critical thinking part of my brain that was really, really important. So letting yourself be bad.
I love this concept of letting yourself be bad. Yeah. I'm curious how long you let yourself be bad for. How long are we talking?
You get better. You get better the more that you do it. And I think that's I feel like I did, I went to community college and I did it pretty slow, and I would take a class here and I'd take a class there. And so it took me a long time to eventually finish. And then once I had the baby, then I spent the last 2 years and just got finished the electrical engineering degree. But I think it took me a long time to figure out, like, should I do an electrical engineering degree? Should it be more, I was doing massage? Should it be doing more of this? And I think just like, hey, like maybe I need to retake this math class because I didn't do well in calculus the first time. That was a big mental jump for me. So it's like, okay, that's okay. Like I feel a lot better about it now, like having redone it. But I think letting yourself fail, but sometimes there is a balance, right? Sometimes I feel like people, like if you don't learn from the failure, or if sometimes it's just like you don't have the time to let yourself fail repetitively, and you're like, oh, I actually just need to go do, like, I need to transition out of engineering. I need to go get a different degree. And I've heard it both ways. I feel like I've heard people, like my PI was originally in accounting, and then he failed his accounting and ended up doing physics, and he was very, very hard physics, and he has a PhD. And then I've heard people go the other way. They they were doing, I feel like, and they're very different parts of your brain that you activate. And so, like if you have the time and you're interested in, and you don't mind, like, okay, yeah, I like, that was a really big mental jump for me, and like, I still want to do this, and then maybe you can try again. But yeah, not everybody has the opportunity to be able to try again, or sometimes it's just letting yourself have the opportunity. So there's definitely a balance.
I'm like, I just love how like you are so excited about doing like trying new things and being okay with nothing being set.
Yeah.
Was it uncomfortable though, not having anything, you know, guaranteed or set in stone or having a straightforward path, because you were trying so many things at the same time and everything was up in the air a little bit in some way, and even still now, because you've chosen not to take a traditional career and you're still building this startup that is really a slow burn, you know, really trendy.
And it's not, and I think that's not even our goal in the long term either. And so it is definitely the goal to build more sustainably, build in a way that doesn't burn ourselves out, and build in a way that's enjoyable for us. And so I think our approach has been a lot different than maybe some other startups. And I think that's why I think it looks so different, is because this is what I know, and so I think I am doing more of what I know, because I do have like, hey, if I need money, I can go get money. Like that's, as a massage therapist, as a cleaner, like, hey, I know how to get my needs met in the way that I'm need them met. I can find the relationships that I need to meet my needs. I think we reached a part in the startup now, so we were funded a lot from business plan competitions and from grants. We probably got over $200,000 from business competitions and grants, and we've been applied. There's still a lot of technical de-risking that we need to do. We built originally with a lot of off-the-shelf parts. But now we realize that we need to build our own custom transducers. And so we've applied to the National Science Innovation Small Business Innovation Research Grant. We have a lot of business people who are very excited about it, who would be excited to buy our technology, but our technology just needs to get to that point. And so I think it's been, there's a lot of technical de-risking, but the government is very slow. I think we're slow too, so it's fine. But during this time period of like, I don't want to do so much pitch competitions. I don't want to stretch myself thin. I very selectively applied to very few things that I thought we were a very good fit for. And I was like, this is all I want to do. And we'll just bootstrap until we finish this technical development. Like, I don't want to go raise money. I don't want to do this. I just want to focus on technical development. And then we can get our money. Like, we have engineering degrees. Like, we can go get engineering jobs if we need to. And that's why we work at the Applied Physics Lab also. And so it's nice to have that part-time job. But my co-founder recently had to take on a more full-time role at the Applied Physics Lab. It came with a good pay increase, but he's now having to spend 40 hours a week on another project. Oh, wow. But engineering is his like comfort zone, and so he is like doing 40 hours a week there, but then also coming here and then putting like more hours at the end of the day just doing technical development. And it's I think he prefers that to like me making him go network. And so I think he would rather take that any single day than having to go like talk to more people. But he's gotten really, really good at networking. But that's definitely like doing all the pitch competitions and stuff like that hasn't been, and it's very time consuming to do. And it was really good to do that work of like business validation and make those connections and find those people that we need. But if we can do this this technical de-risking that we need to do, then we'll be in a better place, and we can do this technical de-risking either out of pocket through engineering salaries or through a small business innovation grant or something like that. And so we'll still be in this non-dilutive phase for a while before we're even ready to think about taking any on VC funding, and that wouldn't be until maybe we look at a more residential market. I think we'd like to do partnerships with like more industrial companies until then.
Wow, you've come so far. You must be so proud.
I feel like it's a very windy journey, and I think I mostly check in. I'm like, am I happy? And if the answer is yes, then I feel like a lot of people like it needs to be on a very particular timeline. But I think I care more that I don't hurt too many people along the way, or like I'm more thoughtful with my engagements. I think a lot of startups can do things in this very like, it doesn't matter if you're breaking all the eggs or making omelets, but it's like I don't want to break that many eggs. I care about these people. I care about these relationships. I want them to be healthy, and I'd much rather go slower and more thoughtfully and making sure that we're building the right thing. And then I'm like using the people who want to give their time to me in a much more thoughtful and considerate way.
I love that. What's the journey been for you looking back in retrospect? And are there any, I guess, stumbling blocks that you can look back on now and laugh at, or find gratitude in?
I would say there was so much I didn't know before we started this journey. I feel like I've gained a lot of awareness, even in, I feel like I finished my electrical engineering degree and then I went into like this very more business focus. And I feel like I've learned a lot, even in terms of like engineering very quickly. I think when we first built our prototype, we did it over like spring break and we built this whole thing like in my dad's like, he has a space down in Colorado and he has like a bunch of land down there, like 5 acres in Colorado. And he has a shed and we built a bunch of stuff in his shed. And so that was really nice. And it's still, I think he finally took it apart. But he was like, yeah, you guys can use this stuff. But we thought like, hey, this is like, we've built other projects. We're just going to do this real fast. Like we've been doing like all these engineering projects. Like we built this Skittle sorting. We built all this other stuff. Like, and then, there was so much about the physics that we didn't know. Like, I think we didn't realize that we'd be like, like at the applied physics lab. I feel like technically there's a lot of stuff that we tried that was like, we've learned a lot technically. I think my co-founder needed to get his master's degree and do like these very intense technical courses because the problem that we're working on is tried to been tackled by a lot of people and no one has quite cracked it yet. And so we're like, okay, we think that just thinking very, very deeply about like the science, like, okay, if we take this approach, this is going to be more effective. And so there's still some things that we would like to try, but I think in terms of like business, in terms of like, we didn't know anything about business. We know so much about business now. We came in and we were like, hey, like this like we want to make this impact, but like learning how to make the impact through business. I feel like we've learned so much. I'm like, I look back at myself and then I see people where I was and I'm like, ooh, this is going to be a fun journey for you. Like, I hope you stick with it because it's like looking back at that stage when you're just trying things. It takes a long time. And then you're a different person. Like I'm a different person than when I started.
How so?
A lot of it is, I feel like I have taken the time to educate myself, and then I've made a lot more connections, and then seeing the way that other people are able to accomplish things in a well-resourced way. I'm like, wow, having resources is nice. You can do a lot of things. And being a part of the university is very well-resourced, and like being at the applied physics lab and being like, hey, like I want to go to this lab and use these tools, and they're like, please come in, use these tools. You have access to this, like here, and like just get training. Like you can, versus like me having cigarette butts in my rooms, it's a very different experience. Being like people being like, hey, yeah, multi-million-dollar piece of equipment, like you can use this. Just do the training and let me show you how to use it. And like this is available to you. And we want you to like use these places and have these resources. And it's I have access to a much higher caliber of person now who's like very like excited about like the work that I'm doing and really wants to help and like wants me to be successful versus me just like, I'm going to do this by myself and like it's a much more harder way to do it.
What about mentally? Do you think that your thought processes are different now, or how do you think through problems and how do you problem solve now versus then?
I think it's similar in some ways. I think I've gotten a lot smarter, just because I feel like I'm taking in new information a lot. And so I started going to grad school and I was really debating if the MBA program was worth it or not. And in terms of information, I think the information has been really, really solid. So I'm really glad that I'm doing it in terms of networking. I think my peers, a lot of people go to the Foster School of Business because they want to transition to tech. So they're all working at local companies and having access to different things that they're doing and them being like, hey, yeah, come check out my workspace. My company might be interested in this technology that you're working on. That's been really, really awesome. And then like the connections and the resources that the university has through things like We Lead or Nucleate or these different programs that are available at the university have been really awesome to engage in.
What about in your personal life?
I feel like that's a big trade-off as a founder, and I think definitely lean on your community overall, because I feel like that's what's going to make it be successful. But I think I did have to make trade-offs in my personal life to be to do the things that I want to accomplish, because everybody has a very limited amount of time. So just thinking about like how much time do I have to spend with my daughter, or how much time do I have to spend on my relationships? And in some ways, I think being polyamorous is good because it's nice to have more people help out in more ways. I feel like just like, hey, some like having different people who want to spend time with my daughter and enjoy that relationship, or having people who are doing different work and have different insights, and just having a larger community, I think makes it more successful. But then at the same time, there is trade-offs with the time, because every relationship needs a lot of time, and I think you can go into it very, very rosy-eyed and not realizing that people have more needs, and then just making sure that you're doing everything to meet their needs. And so I would say there's definitely been trade-offs in my personal life in regards to into the startup. And so I think that's one of the more difficult things about it is those trade-offs.
Do you have any examples of sacrifices you've had to make?
Yeah, and I think it is, a lot of it is time. It's a big thing is time. I feel like a lot of these pitch competitions in the early time were very, very time consuming. And then I feel like my daughter was late to school like every single day. And I think she has quite a lot of tardies, and it's like, man, I want to sleep in, and I just want to like snuggle her a little bit more. And I feel like I don't want to rush her, but then it's definitely like, everyone's like, your daughter's late every single day. And so I'm like, it's fine, but like, I don't know. She's been able to she's been taking the bus, so she's more on time these days. But I think it is like not being able to like, hey, I'm gonna spend a late night here, and it's like, do I need to be home right now? Do I need to be like having dinner with my family, or do I need to like be developing something for my startup? And you have to pick, and then the decisions that you make have consequences in the long term. And so I think that is the hard part, is like, are you sacrificing the relationship for this thing? And then you always have the opportunity to return to the relationship. I feel like thinking about the relationships that I've had maybe with people when I was 20 versus like I know them now that I'm like 33, like seeing like, hey, yeah, I've known you like from this time when I was doing these things, and now I know you in a completely different context. And these people change wildly over during periods of time, and it's very, very interesting to see where people end up. And you have these experiences where maybe someone hurts you, or and then it's like, oh, maybe I don't want to engage in that relationship. And then you go back and you think outside yourself a little bit more. And then later on, you're like, oh, maybe I would like to engage with this person again and see if there is something else there. But it's interesting to see people go through different life milestones. People get very religious. People have babies. People do all the human life stuff, and they're still there. And I think they're still available to you. And for the most part, those relationships are available to you, but choosing how you engage with them and then what you want from them. I think you can make all sorts of group dynamics with people. And I think I'm very into the different group dynamics and the different team dynamics and what I'm able to accomplish with different teams.
It's so interesting how you are able to hold science and religion and also technology and the human elements side by side and see both of them and thread your way through being able to synthesize both of those things so that you can create something that is kind of like a mixture of both those things. I see in the work that you do, you're innovating technology, but you're also touching people's lives in a really fun but also very practical way. So how do you balance all of that? I love how you have this liberal arts side, but you also have the engineering side of you.
And I think I think being more open to things that you don't always understand. I think religion has played an important role in, I think, shaping a lot of my thinking. But I think I'm no longer religious anymore. I think it was a good period for me to go through and think about those things and understand the role that religion played in my life. But I feel like I had to unlearn a lot of the things that I learned through religion. It's a really useful tool. I think it's really, really amazing in terms of like, there's not very many places that you can grieve in society or have feelings. And like oftentimes in a professional setting, you can't experience a lot of these emotions. And then churches are often the place where you can go and feel this sense of community, and they provide these services, and like they'll watch your kids for you. And so in towns that are maybe a lot smaller than Seattle, that don't have a lot of resources, oftentimes the church is going to be that place that you're going to go and have access to those resources in communities all around the world. And so it's really been kind of the forefront of civilization for people to meet. It's historically built on a lot of, there's so much history with it, and that history is really, really interesting, and I think it's super amazing. And I'm not saying that like anything is right. I'm just saying that like I'm very, very open to everybody's experiences. It's when people start hurting other people and telling other people that they're wrong, or really forcing an agenda, that I start to take issue with it. But as like culturally, I find it very, very beautiful. And then in terms of like psychological tools, like prayer is amazing, because you're controlling your mental pathways. A lot of people don't learn how to self-regulate. And you can go very, very deep on pathways of thinking. Like your brain is amazing. Like the placebo effect is amazing. The fact that you can think yourself into getting better. Like I think prayer taps into a lot of those things, like practicing gratitude. Practicing gratitude is so healthy. And so I think that religion is an amazing tool for people. And I think it can be a stepping stone to thinking more things. And there's so many ways to interact with other people and engage in community. And I think religion is one of them. And I think just as long as it's not hurting anyone. And then I think particularly the very strict Judeo-Christian biblical way of thinking, I think I've stepped away from that a lot. But then there's a lot of like, love your neighbor like yourself. And like, there's a lot of very positive things that you can take away from it as well.
I wanted to kind of bring full circle with, from your mom to now you being a mom and raising a child and watching her grow, and people often compare raising a startup to raising a child. So what have you kind of learned in the last, in the course of your daughter's life, and how has she challenged you in ways, and how have you, learned from her? Because I think when you were talking, when we talked about it before, you mentioned that like I forget the exact words you used, but something along the lines of like having a child, you kind of get to see like not the best days, but that helps you become a better person, or you see you see different sides of yourself.
Yeah, I think it can be very reflective, especially when you have to be a parent, because it's like you do want them to. You want them to engage in their emotions, but learn emotional regulation. But that's hard to do if you haven't learned to regulate your own emotions and figure out, okay, why is this triggering me, or why did that thing that they did make me so angry right now? And it's like you don't want to like, but you want to give them boundaries. You want to make sure that they understand, like, hey, that I'm afraid right now, and I want you to be afraid because this is not a safe thing. So I want to put a little bit of fear in you, but where is this so much fear coming from in me, and like what am I afraid of? And so there's so much self-reflection that you have to do as a parent to understand what it is that your child is learning from you. Oftentimes you learn how to react from your parents. And so if your parents react a particular way to a circumstance, you learn this is the appropriate way to react to the circumstance. And there's many ways. I feel like there's a lot of ways to feel. And so it can take a long time to develop your own way of being. And I feel like giving my daughter the space to be like, okay, what emotions does this make you feel? And I think she's turning into like a very empathetic person. And I feel like she values other people's emotions very highly, but I think she does have a balance. I feel like sometimes she does have like a little bit of teenager come out where she's just like, I don't care. Because it can be a lot to care sometimes. Right. And understanding when it's like, yeah, maybe you don't need to care right now. Maybe that's fine. Or when do you need to care a lot? Like if somebody's hurt, she's always very, very concerned and has advice. And so I feel like it's like she goes through different phases, and it's cool to watch the different phases. I feel like she experiments with lying a little bit. I think a lot of parents are like, oh, the minute that you lie, they get very like, you can't do that. That's very, but there's some benefits to lying, and I'm curious what she lies about and why. And I want her to feel like she can tell things to me. And then what are the ways, like if people think that you're a liar, people are going to treat, like there's consequences to your actions. I don't need to go be very harsh about some of it, because it's a skill that she's testing, and it can hurt you if you do it improperly.
Is there any parting thoughts that you have that I didn't get a chance to ask about, or that you think would be valuable for people who are in the midst of making big life transitions or trying to find their path?
I think that you can be more effective when you listen in general. I think whether it's listening to your body, like what you need, and then like responding to the needs that you have, whether it's listening to your community or your relationships or your partners on their needs, whether it's listening to your market about what it needs, like let your market guide you, let your market tell you what to build. Those people will be your customers and they will give you money, and that'll make your goal to be really rich and successful so much more easier if you just do what they, like the market will tell you. And if you're not getting, if it's feeling very, very difficult, then I think do a little bit more listening, and try to connect with what you're hearing.
On the note of customer discovery, what would you say were the top 3 things that helped you discover yourself?
I think a lot of it is failure. I think failure is healthy and allowing yourself to fail. I think a lot of it is also, but letting yourself have a sense of self. I would say there is listening, but on the other hand, there's asserting. There is that action-taking approach. And so when you do that listening, there's also this other balance where it's like, I do have a vision, I do have these things that I would like to see, and I want to take action into bringing them into life. And it's like when you combine those two, that it can be really, really effective when you did really, really good listening, and then you're able to take your vision and applying it to the resources that are available to you, things that are actually possible instead of like being inside your head. And it's nice, there's things that you would like to bring, but with the circumstances, it would be too difficult. But if you can combine the two, reality as well as what's inside your head, and then you take this vision, because there needs to be some guidance so people can see this artistic thing that you're making, this creative, innovative thing, and then you're able to apply it. That's when you can start doing some really amazing things in the world.
Beautiful. Perfect. That's a wrap. Thank you, Amy.
My pleasure.